Hello, everyone. Good morning, and I hope you are doing wonderful. I welcome you to the second episode of Boardroom Broadcast. Now, a little bit brief about this Boardroom Broadcast. This is one of its kind of event where we feature C-suite executives, board members, industry leaders engaging in unscripted debates on critical topics like governance, succession, and economic trends. Unlike traditional panel, it recreates the intense private boardroom meeting conversation for global audience. And today we are going to talk about the family business. Yes, family business, like the biggest contributor for our economy. Now, why did we choose family business? One of the biggest reason is that you this year in UAE it's a year of family, so that was one of the biggest reason. Another one is related to the business. Family business plays a vital role in global and UAE economies, driving significant GDP shares, employment, and stability. And recent data highlights they outsize the contribution amid economic challenges. So when we talk about the global contribution, world's 500 largest family businesses generate around 8.8 trillion US dollars. They are generated in 2025 and up to 10 and it is up by 10% from 2023. And the employment they provide is to 25.1 million people. So it's a huge number of employment they provide. They account over 70% of global GDP, around 60% of employment, and with revenue projection rising from 21 trillion US dollars currently to 29 trillion US dollars by 2020 2030. And family firms also show resilience with average growth from 12% currently to 14% in 2026. Now let's come to UAE contribution of the family businesses. Family business comprise 90% of UAE private sector companies. It's a huge, huge number. And it contributes to 60% of national GDP. More than 80% of employment is provided by family businesses. And it is quite significant. So, with this, let's get started with our incredible discussion on family business. And we have very special guests today. Let me give a quick introduction. They are in the event as well, so you can follow them. They do brilliant work, so I'm sure you don't want to miss connecting with them. The first panelist we have is Mr. Skandan Mahalingam. We call him Rameshji actually, so I'm going to address him with Rameshji. He's a banker, independent non-executive director, family and enterprise and merger and acquisition, and he's chartered accountant. He will share insights on future-ready family finance, strategic investments, and merger and acquisition for family businesses. The next expert is Adam Miloff. He's again independent non-executive director, former chief operating officer, chief financial officer, chief information officer, and he will share perspective on family governance, board effectiveness, and enterprise strategy across generations. And we have Dr. Reed Hamo. He is PhD, and his PhD subject is very interesting, so that we'll talk about in some time. He's lead consultant, chief human resource officer for family business. So he will share his insights with us about succession planning and leadership development in family businesses. Thank you everyone for joining us today. And my first question is money related finance. So Ramesh, my first question is for you. Reports on 2026 family business agenda stresses that economic uncertainty and margin pressure demand strong financial discipline. And I know that you write a lot about that one, something like rebuilding cash reserve or reassessing debt exposure. So, what is that one financial discipline or the rule family businesses have introduced in 2026 or must introduce in 2026 to make sure the modernization don't put family legacy balance sheet at risk, amid the AI, geopolitical tension, and all the dynamic tariffs which we are seeing. So, what is it? One discipline they need to have.
Great. Thank you, Neetu. It's wonderful to be on this panel and with eminent co-panelists such as Adam and Dr. Raed. Let me start with something that I think gets overlooked very often. Family businesses have an exposure that other companies, such as listed or non-family businesses, simply do not have. The family balance sheet and the business balance sheet legally may be different, but in practice, they're actually the same thing. Morally, they are the same thing. If a business owned by a family business, is strapped of cash, it often gets interpreted as if the family is strapped of cash. So, this additional identity that a family business acquires always needs to be kept in mind. Nobody says it out aloud, but then this is like the elephant in the room. Everybody knows it. Yeah. So, if you ask me, what is the one financial discipline that I would recommend for families? Actually, more than recommend, I would strongly emphasize on is not a performance metric, not a hurdle rate, not a leverage formula, but liquidity protection. This is a prerequisite for family businesses to take on. And what do I mean by that? A minimum 6 months of operating cash should be kept in reserve at all times. It should be ring fenced, and this should be a board level governance oversight matter. It should not be a negotiable matter. Now, when I say 6 months, it's not proper for me to paint all businesses with a single broad brush. No, but you get the point. Depending upon the operating cycle of the business, there needs to be 2 cycles at least kept in cash reserve. That way, any projects such as a modernization project, which you alluded to, the capital required for modernization does not come from compressing working capital needs. It does not come from delaying suppliers and ruining reputation of the business. It does not come from urgentizing customers to pay earlier and offering cash discounts to collect cash sooner. These are all seen negatively by the market and perceived negatively by the bankers too, right? So, for a normal trading company, like a wholesaler or a retailer, because family offices are largely in the trading activity, let's say, why 6 months? Because that's the distance between a bad quarter and a bad decision. So, enough buffer on the cash front. Do not try to make an ROI on that cash balance. This is protection money. The second aspect, I would say, on the cash front, or in terms of fortification of family businesses, would be to limit the leverage. Many a family business, many a businessman for that matter, has been prone to taking leverage, helping themselves to loans when banks were offering it to them based on their reputation and name lending and so forth. But what happened is the leverage came back to bite them. So I'm a proponent of limiting leverage. It's not possible to do business in most cases without leverage. However, limiting the leverage, placing self-imposed limits and discipline is vital. I would say, if you ask me to pick a number, I would say net debt should be no more than 2 years of cash profits. Or to give you a rough indication, 2 years of EBITDA, yeah, should be your internal limit on leverage. Now, I know there must be a lot of CFOs of family businesses sitting in here. Their circumstances may be different and warrant a larger limit, but then, being the conservative advisor that I am for family businesses, I would say limit leverage. If the principle is taken rather than the metric, I'd be happy. Hmm? Thirdly, modernization risk is a family in a family business is asymmetric. What do I mean by that? The upside, if the modernization works, is a benefit across generations. However, any downside, yeah, is not across generations. It is the people in the room that bear the brunt of the failed modernization. So, what is warranted? Caution. Caution is warranted in undertaking any modernization expenditure or modernization budgets, right? In closing on this point, I'd like to add that the balance sheet is not just a financial document. It is a statement for a family business. It's a statement on what the family represents. It goes way beyond the balance sheet. It has moral, it has ethical, it has multiple connotations, right? I'd like to invite comments from Adam or Dr. Raed, if any, on this topic. It's a very wide-ranging subject, actually.
Yeah, that's right. One question, as you were talking about the liquidity protection for 6 months and the difference between the bad quarter and the bad decision and limiting the leverage, does it apply for the small businesses, medium or large, or across all family businesses?
I'd say it applies across all family businesses, barring the very large ones. There are certain large family businesses that are systemically very important. They're too big to fail. So
Yeah,
banks and the system will come to their rescue. I'm not including those in this. Let's say the middle 80% of family businesses, they might fall in this uh, category.
yeah,
See, what
that's right.
happens is when a business doesn't do well, when it is compressed for cash, the microscope, yeah, is turned down. The lens is turned on to a larger degree by any lender they approach. And there is much more scrutiny of the company's financials, right? The family
That's right.
businesses financials.
Yeah,
And so and so my advice is aimed at all those who want to avoid getting into that zone. Stay in the
exactly.
green. Don't even get into amber. Red is a no-no.
Yeah, that's right. Thank you so much, Rameshji. It was very insightful, actually. And at this point, I want to tell all our audience he has a brilliant newsletter on LinkedIn. Subscribe to that one because every week I'm reading that one, and it has brilliant insights from financial front, from family businesses, and from the overall business perspective. So must subscribe for that one. And with this
Thank
one, my next question is for Adam. In 2026, Family Business Agenda highlights that regulators, bank, and employees now expect a listed company level of transparency, whether it's for the risk management or the cyber resilience or financial stability, even from the private family businesses. So, which governance upgrade do you believe will matter the most for credibility with external stakeholders in 2026 for family business? Is it a strengthening audit and risk committees, formalizing ESG oversight, financial like perspective, or creating a properly empowered family council? What is it governance thing which families need to have?
Thank you, Neetu, and good morning to you, Dr. Rad, Ramesh, and everyone listening in and watching online. Hope you're all safe and well. So, each of those are important for different reasons. How they are important and the priority in which they are important will depend on the organization and the nature and revenue profile of the family business and its evolution as a family business. As everyone would know, there is a spectrum from very simple single family office to multi-generational, multi-sector organisations, which, as Ramesh correctly point out, are the underpinning of some of the economies in this region, and in many cases are too big to fail. But if you look at what out of those three areas is important for all enterprises, regardless of size, profile, and financial position, I would say it would be strengthening audit and risk capabilities. And there's a couple of reasons for that. If we look in the last 6 years, so since COVID, the global economy has been relatively unstable if you compare to, let's say, the 5 or 6 years before that. Now, global growth in that period, 2014 to 2020, was average at best, but the economy was stable, geopolitically relatively stable. We've entered a period in the past 6 years where all of that's changed. All of our established conventions, paradigms, notions have been turned upside down in many ways. I mean, we're seeing that here at the moment in the GCC as a very recent example. And in all of that, what investors look at, what other key stakeholders, including government, look at, is stability. And yes, growth is important. Yes, a path to profitability is important. But stability underpins all of that. Without stability, nothing else can happen. And so the audit and risk capability is critical for that. Number one, having a proper, understandable, but also practical risk management framework helps you not only to be reactive in terms of managing crises, but also to proactively anticipate what is on the horizon, but also to inform and guide decision making such that those decisions are made not in a vacuum, but are made with the benefit of insight and the benefit of understanding what venturing into a new business, for example, means for the organization as a whole. The audit perspective is also important. As businesses grow, and we've seen a number of family businesses in the last 5-6 years in this region grow exponentially. As you grow, the span of control changes. And what do I mean by that? It means that you start to enter different business lines, different geographies. You're dealing with different joint venture partners. That is fantastic because it allows you to scale very quickly, potentially. But also it brings with it challenges around understanding the validity and the verifiability of transactions you enter into. And so having a strong audit function, having that hindsight both internally through an assurance function which reports ideally directly to the board or the board audit committee, and having that external oversight as well, which gives you that level of independence and comfort around what relationships you're entering into, is critical. Now, the external audit function is a little bit reactive because normally you look at that on a yearly basis in hindsight. It's really the internal audit function, which in many organizations, particularly family companies, is not developed, which is critical because having that capability allows you on a rolling, let's say, quarterly basis to look at different areas of the organization, both randomly and deliberately as well. And it allows you, relatively compared to external audit in real time, to pick up issues and deal with them before they become potentially systemic. So that there are a few reasons that audit and risk are critical. I would say that there's a pendulum in terms of what organizations prioritize, which is the pendulum between performance and compliance. What I would say as a caveat to that is it's also not good to devote a significant amount of your resources to those areas at the expense of business growth opportunities as well. you need to strike a very careful balance. Otherwise, yes, you'll have robust systems for detection of fraud or for managing entering new markets. But if it holds you back, then you've defeated the purpose of having it. So that will be my only, as I said, caveat or condition on that, is that, like everything, have a balance between performance and compliance.
That's interesting. And I love when you mention the performance and compliance. So, if we talk about the compliance aspect, if a family business is like global and they have to comply with the global jurisdiction, so what is it one thing they need to keep it in mind for 2026, especially?
From a compliance perspective, I think the one thing you need to keep in mind is that this, let's say, landscape is changing
Yeah,
constantly. I mean,
that's
you go back pre global financial crisis. The landscape in compliance, yes, it changed, but it was more incremental. Since then, it has been a lot more rapid. Now, for example, you see in the UAE, that they were on the grey list with the Financial Action Task Force. Now they're on the white list. They're going to be reviewed in a couple of months again. Hopefully, they'll stay off the grey list. So, and that has knock-on effects in terms of the economy, which are very real, and which, for businesses navigating that, those requirements can change monthly. And so, my one piece of advice would be get on top of it and get, depending on the market you're operating in, where it's regional specific, get the right local advice.
exactly. And having that foresight that what is coming up next and preparing for that. So, you mentioned about the risk and like spotting the risk before time. That's very important. Thank you so much, Adam. Thanks a lot. And
Pleasure.
with this, we will move to the next question for Dr. Reed. Is when we talk about the succession planning, the recent succession research shows that transitions work best when the leadership handover is done as a multi-year program and not like, okay, today is my last working day and tomorrow onwards my son or my daughter will take care of things. So involving external experience, government rules, and the gradual transfer of authority, not a single retirement event. So, if you had to design a succession plan for 3 to 5 years journey of a family business, what would be the first concrete step anyone can take in 2026 for family businesses?
Yeah, good morning, everyone. Thank you, Neetu, for this. And thanks for my colleague Ramesh and Adam for their fruitful information. Uh, the most important part for the succession planning for any business is actually the structure and the governance that they have to put in place at the beginning. What I have seen actually through different decades, that the majority of them, they've been failed because of not having a very good board structure. That's one thing. The second thing, it's a wrong surrounded committee, or let's say C-level surrounded by the top management or the owner or the one that who leads actually the business. This makes actually a huge problem for the succession of the moving the company forward. In order to make it a very well established, part one, which is very important for the succession, is actually to have a real defined role for the, let's say, the chairman or the CEO of the company. If there is no clear instructions or no clear, let's say, role, this will have a problem in the future. The second thing is actually the vision and the strategy where the company they want to be. What my colleague Ramesh mentioned earlier, which is actually the cash flow. What I have seen also, majority of the companies, they've been not able to continue or to success because of the cash flow. That makes them actually, they put them in a very critical situation, because the one that who's actually leading the business was not very well prepared for the position. It's being appointed by the family. It's being appointed because they don't have someone to lead. It can be also the owner of the company or the chairman, and puts one of his kids or sons or daughters to lead the business. So you will have him as a chairman, you will have the other one as a CEO, then you will have a conflict between both of them. So that makes actually them not able to lead the company into a very good, successful growth. In my opinion, and what I have seen, especially after the corona, in order to make it a very well structured and a very good succession for the growth, you need to have them very well prepared before let them or getting them into the company, and to be higher or and to be surrounded with a very good talented board members that they can actually provide them with a good insight, information, and advice, especially first, which is the financial, the second, which is legal, and the third is the governance and risk. If the CEO or the chairman for any family business not surrounded by those three angles, they will definitely fall down.
That's wonderful. Financial, legal, and governance, and preparing the successors beforehand rather than like bringing them last in the picture. Do you feel that when company have like the family business into like they have multiple businesses, does it become more challenging, or like when they have only one business that time? And what can we do? What can
Def-
they do if multiple
Definitely,
business?
diversity of business. Yes, it's more challenging, especially if the family business or the one that who's being appointed to run the business has no interest in the business. That's a big problem. In my opinion, always as a family business, they need to have an internal committee, okay, and they have to vote for the right person to run the business. It is not, it is because it is the youngest son that I would like him to take to lead the business, or whoever it is. No, it should be a family business where they need to come together as a committee to appoint someone to lead the business for at least the first 2 or 3 years with elections. That puts a pressure on the CEO or the one that who needs to run the business, understanding that it is not a one-man show and he do whatever he wants the way that he wants to run the business. He will feel that there is somebody will actually come and ask for achievements. There's a KPIs, so where is the business is going. So it is not a matter of, yes, I want to run a business and do it the way that I like it.
Yeah, that's right. Thank you so much, Dr. Reed. And I will tell our audience that would you like to say something about your PhD and your research, the topic of it, because that's quite
I,
interesting. So, briefly, if you
yeah,
can mention.
the topic it was about how the next generation will move into a very successful growth for the family business. And what I found that at that time, it was in 2003, that between the third and the fourth generation, the company will drop down. And why? Because the grandfather established the business, then the youngest son who actually take over, then one of the sons is actually take over, which is the third generation. But the problem, it is actually that the last generation that is coming, they have no interest of the business because they come into the world where they have money, and we call it, a golden spoon. They have to feed them. So it's actually they found the business is up and running and they have no interest, and they have been coming from a different education, let's say, because the grandfather actually was not very well educated, let's say. He established the business, then the father came with a very moderate education, then now my son come with a very western or whatever education, coming with a different mindset. What will happen? The business collapse. And this is what happened. A very well established business that being established in 70 and 80s, and during corona they being disappeared. The two or
That's
three family business that I have seen, then thanks God they are still up and running. The one that they have already established a very good board member, a very good governance, and they already established an internal family committee how they are going to run the business, and they keep running the business up and running until today.
right. That's wonderful. That's wonderful to know. Ramesh, my next question is for you. The recent survey shows that around 70% of the family and the owner managed businesses are worried about inflationary cost pressure and rising interest rate squeezing the margin in the next 12 to 24 months, especially what's happening currently geopolitically. So how can a family board reset the pricing or the cost structure or the debt levels in 2026 to profitability doesn't collapse amid all the things which are happening around, while they keep investing on AI and tech and whatever the market demands at this point?
Very well. You mentioned interest rates going up. Did you?
Yeah.
Let me flag something about the question itself before I begin to answer. While costs are going up, and you're 100% right there, inflation is biting. Interest rates are actually on the decline. Yeah,
That's
and
interesting.
this is evidenced by the Fed cutting rates, central banks around the world cutting rates. Not just those who are pegged to the dollar, as in the UAE, but even other central banks. To give you one of the nearest large examples, the RBI has been cutting rates as
Hmm.
well. Right, so interest rate is actually going down. Nonetheless, the point is very valid. Inflation is rising, and profitability is under pressure. So let me address the question now. First of all, pricing is something that family offices, family businesses need to look at. Pricing
Hmm.
is typically set by the patriarch, and the rest of the family members simply dutifully follow. No one's typically in a typical family office, and I think Dr. Raid's research will bear this out as well. No one questions the founder because, of the respect, because of the position he has, and it's typically somebody with a lot of stature within the family. So that pricing goes unchallenged, and for that matter, that the survey will tell you that most businesses, family businesses, are underpriced, yeah, in their
Hmm.
offering, right? You can see the difference between what an MNC would charge versus what a family business would charge. Now, that may
Yeah.
be a tactical advantage, or even a strategic advantage for a family business, but then something is giving, and that is the family business's profitability. Now, when the winds of change happen and inflation bites, the the propensity of the family business to put up their prices is relatively slow.
Hmm.
So uh, profits are under threat. Hmm? My answer to this, my suggestion to family businesses would be to say, please compare what a business that is newly set up would charge, and then see
Hmm.
if there is room to fair price your services or your products appropriately. Right? So that's one area to look at. The second, and a corollary to the price, would be the cost structure. In family offices, over the years, yeah, or in family businesses, I should say, over the years, what happens is costs build up, costs accumulate with time. Um, there are roles created for family members that are not necessarily uh, bottom line friendly, right?
That's
Long
true.
serving members, out of loyalty, staff members, yeah, out of loyalty, out of genuine loyalty, I should say, will be continued in the business. And the economic value gained by the business through these cost components, yeah, may not match, yeah, what is required to preserve the bottom line. I don't mean to say that family businesses should turn mercenary and put profit above everything else. But then this is a factor that they must be conscious of and then decide how much of their bottom line they're willing to give away for things like loyalty or things like keeping the family together and so on, right? So, loyalty and financial discipline, these need not be opposites. You can honor both with a proper trade off between the two. Hmm? I'd simply say, as a former CFO myself, I would say look at every cost line, ask this one important question: does this cost serve the customer or protect the business, or doesn't it? If the answer is yes, continue with the cost. If the answer is no, take a hard look at it and take the appropriate decisions, right? So zero based budgeting is a tool that we use, finance folks use, which is to look at every cost ab initio, which means from the start, not as a percentage markup on the last year's number or a percentage markdown on the last year's number. Now look at it for what it is. Yeah, stare it in the face and take a management call. The third area I would say is debt. I keep coming back to debt, but this is a different dimension on the debt aspect from the one I talked about earlier. Now, debt is often taken over a multi-year time frame, term debt as it's called. Yeah. During expansionary years, when interest rates are high, you might have locked yourself into a debt deal with the bank or the financial institution, you being a family business. Now, with rates going down, it may be an opportune time to revisit that debt and to perhaps renegotiate or to refinance that debt, because interest paid is as much a cost as any other. And so if you find yourself got caught out with interest rates outside being low, but you are stuck with high interest rates, see how you can renegotiate, repackage, or whatever, financial engineering that needs to be done. Yeah, have a go at it and see if you can reduce the debt burden. That will flow straight into the bottom line. And now for your question on AI and technology. See, there's a challenge here. Now, AI needs capital to be invested in, for sure. Technology needs capital to be invested in. However, the objective of this investment is to reduce costs in the future. Now, the purpose of AI and technology introduction or upgrade or enhancement, yeah, should never be lost. If that objective is kept front and center, then you will invest in AI and technology sensibly. Yeah? These are in the nature of capital expenditure, relatively large sums relative to the size of the business and the values involved are involved in this expansion. And so I would urge people to do a thorough study of what is the payback of this investment that is on the table, AI or for that matter, technology. If the investment pays itself back with all the knowledge that you have, with all the projections that you do, I mean, nobody has a crystal glass, yeah, to predict. But then, as businessmen, yeah, the family business is comprised of businessmen. So, as businessmen, what you know reasonably well should be deployed in the decision as to whether to invest or not to invest. And if you find that within a reasonable time frame, and I'm not talking 10 years and 20 years, within a reasonable time frame in the medium term, if you're not able to recoup the investment in that AI and technology, it means you're chasing technology. chasing technology by itself can be actually destructive of value of the family business. Yeah. So as you say, take a balanced, value-based decision on the introduction of technology and in particular AI, just as you would with a piece of equipment or a new factory or an additional production line or another showroom or another addition to the fleet of trucks for your distribution. Yeah. So it has to be a well reasoned, financially supported decision. So I
That's
think
interesting.
we covered all of these. In summary, I remember a quote: however beautiful the strategy, you should occasionally look at the results.
Yes,
Right. So
that's right. I think that summarizes the entire business, not only family business.
what I mean is, keep looking at whether the strategy is paying off
That's
at
right.
frequent
That's
intervals.
That's wonderful. And I like how you mentioned that loyalty and the keeping family together, we don't have to choose one of them, and zero based budgeting. That was quite interesting. And then renegotiating the rates actually with the for the debt. That's wonderful. And this leads to the next question, which I want to ask Dr. Reed, because you mentioned, Dr. Ramesh, you mentioned about the loyalty and the keeping family together. When I was going through the McKinsey 2026 report, like research report on CEO succession, so it shows that the family-owned businesses shows the average, on average, they show the decline in the stakeholder return and EBITDA for the first 5 years when the leadership transition is there. So regardless of whether the successor is a family or a non-family member. So, what are the concrete steps anyone can take, any family office can take to avoid this succession value dip, which is like the results are showing that it is happening currently?
Is that question for me?
It's for
No,
Dr.
for
Reed.
Dr. Ryan. Yes.
Yeah, sure. First of all, we need just to understand one thing. Succession, it's a team work. It is not just something that comes by itself. There is a teamwork that should come. In order to make sure that there is no decline in the business or nothing, it's happening. As I've said at the beginning, there should be a clear role for the person who's going to run the business. To avoid all these, especially the performance, the decline of the performance, they should have a defined shareholder boundaries and the structure, clarity in the decision. They should have to establish a governance charter. They should have to establish audit charter, a financial charter. It is not just a paper to keep these, documents. They have it, and then the owner or the CEO or the one that who runs the business, because it's a family business, it's my business. I take the decision as I have seen it. It is not a one-man show decision. Okay, it's a collective board of directors. That's what I've said, or the management. That's what I've said at the beginning. If the CEO, it is not surrounded by a very good structured board, the business will decline. And I have seen it many times different, especially starting 2018, where I have seen different institutions, family business, that they are running now into a very financial, they are sacrificing their financial problems, and especially in different regions actually, because what? He has a board, never listen to the board, never listen to the CFO, never listen to the legal, even to the HR, took the decision to collapse. Now they are sacrificing the business. As I've said, it is a team that they need actually all work together. I don't need to please the owner. I need to do the work properly. The financial needs to provide a very good information, the governance, the risk, the legal, so that how they can keep the business up and running. One man show, one decision, definitely it will never work.
That's right. And one thing I want to understand is that what is the transition period when we talk about the succession? Like the father is there and he is giving the next leader is a son or daughter. So what should be the on an average transition period? It should not be like overnight. So which
No,
is a
no,
good
no.
one for a transition.
It's actually, frankly speaking, it should be 3 to 5 years, and he has to shadow. There should
Hmm.
be a shadow between the father and the son, and there should be also someone who's actually independent, okay, as an advisory to the board. Also, the son to be like also shadowing this advisory board. So within 3 to 5 years, they will be able to take over. Especially, they need to understand the business from the scratch, from every single point. They need to understand the marketing. They need to understand all the departments. It is not at the high level, even
Hmm.
at the low level. By this, the company can be run successfully. If I am sitting just on the board and I want to run the business, this definitely will never work.
That's right.
It will
Thank
collapse.
you
At
so
one
much,
point, it will
Dr.
collapse.
That is wonderful. And yeah, so I love this concept of the shadow period when the father or son and daughter are together to understand that they learn those things. I'll just mute one of the mics so that, yeah, because there was some interruption. My next question is for Adam. We are talking about family business and the challenges which families are facing, especially in 2026 and here onwards, because we are seeing a lot of changes are there. So, Dubai's new governance guideline for family business and similar guidelines we have seen across GCC emphasize on the formal structure like family council or clear boards or written family constitution to secure business continuity and access to capital. So, for multi generational family business, especially in 2026, what is it one governance document or the body which is must for all family businesses? And what value does independent director add to that family board? So, two questions are combined in this one. What is it one document which all families should have for governance? And what is the role of independent director?
Yeah, so the one document or one set of guiding principles is a family charter. Now there could be other bodies or documents that you could have. You could have an advisory board. You could have a certain number of independent directors to act as a challenge to the executive directors or the representatives of the family. But the charter is important because it provides the foundation for the way in which, number one, the organisation operates, number two, the respective rights and obligations of each of the representatives on not only on the board of the family organisation, but also those who are shareholders but not board members. And number three, it's a set of guiding principles which can span generations and can be constantly updated, refined, amended based on rather changing circumstances both internally and externally. So that's on what I think is important. And I think, previous question I was addressing was, what are the out of those three things, what are the most important things that families need to consider in 2026? And I was saying it's based on where you're at in your journey, what type of business you are, and the same would apply here too. But a charter traverses all of those
Hmm.
types of businesses, no matter what geography or what business line they operate in. Turning to independent directors, I'll look at it from a regulatory and then a commercial perspective. In some regulatory jurisdictions, there is a stipulation that you have to have a certain number of independent directors, and that applies to all types of businesses, family or otherwise. So some jurisdictions say you have to have a third of your members as independent. Some say you have to have at least one. Others, it's just suggestive or voluntary. But I think it goes beyond what is the regulatory stipulation. It's around, number one, can you find the right people? who are truly independent, are not conflicted, and actually have the organization's best interests at heart and can operate without any vested interests. And two, this is very important, is the organization ready for it? Because you see a lot where organizations bring on independence because they think that it's going to be good for them. It's kind of like putting an IT system in place and thinking it's going to fix all your problems, but you don't understand what the business needs. And so the business has to be ready for it. So one of the family boards that I used to sit on, they came to me and they said, we would like you to be on our board as an independent. And I said to them, okay, that's great. I feel privileged. Why? Why me and why now? And they said, look, why you? Because you bring a fresh perspective and you are independent. And why now? They said, because we are growing at a rate and the complexity of our business is increasing, that we need not only that challenge, but we need some objective insight. And so after a number of conversations with them, I agreed to go on that board because I knew that they were genuine and serious about it, and they wanted someone in that position, whether it's me or someone else, to actually be an agent of change. And so independence is great. It brings the usual benefits of fresh perspective, challenge. But if you're sitting there just as one voice, and you will not be the majority, obviously, but if you're just sitting there as a voice to tick a box, then it's a fruitless exercise. And so my sort of closing remark would be very important to have that independence, but it's got to be for the right reasons.
That's interesting, Adam. Thank you so much. Like, I love when you mentioned that the having the obligation and responsibility. And this, I made a quote that why me and why now. That's lovely. That's going to stay with me for a really long time. Now, as we have seen that a lot of aspects of family business, one question has come to my mind. If they have multiple siblings, like father, sons and daughters are there, what is the minimum period should be there when one person is in charge of leading the business? Because I know one of the businesses, they have multiple siblings, and every 6 months their CEO is changing, and employees are like, they don't know what to do, where the company is going. So it's open to all of you. Please share your views. What is the minimum period one person should be leading? Not everyone. Yes, please.
Okay.
Yeah,
As I've said, minimum 3 to 5 years. The minimum is
yeah.
3 years. And if there is an election where there should be a committee, all the employees, they need to know that there is a governance, there is a very well structured, that this CEO is accountable for the business that he or she is doing. Okay. And within 3 years, there should be elections to look at the performance and to see if that person can lead the business for the second another 2 or 3 years again or not. This will have a stability on the business itself, employees. Then you will not see a high turnover, you will not see a confusion, you don't see all this. Plus, the business will not run successfully if they can see lots of changes in the management, especially from the siblings, the son, the father, anyone from the family member comes at one point wants to run the business because he just been graduated and then is going to be in the board member just to be part with the family, which is completely wrong. So the minimum for me is the 3 years from what I have seen, and the 3 years not in any decision making as well. First, they should actually go into different stages to understand the business, especially if he or she is not in the business before.
Yeah.
So jumping in from the parachute, this is completely wrong.
Exactly. And I would like to say something, as you were saying that father and sons, this is International Women's Day, so we can say mother can also start a family business and daughters can take. So we have to change that narrative actually. Once in one of the meetings, I said people were talking about chairman, and I said why it is not a chairperson. So for family business also we can talk about mother and then the daughters. Yeah, Ramesh ji or the Adam, would you like to say something? What is the minimum period from your
I
perspective?
I completely see Dr. Wright's point, and I agree. If there are multiple siblings in a family, yeah, to cite your example, rotation is probably not a recommended solution at all, because, as you said, it will lead to confusion. What I have
Yeah,
seen in certain families is that they spin off divisions or lines of businesses into divisions, and they make a different sibling head that division. Right. However, before heading that division, Dr. Wright's formula of be in the business, yeah, dirty your boots for 3 to 5 years, roll up your sleeves, sweat it out. You got to know every aspect of the business before you start claiming that you can manage the business or direct the business, right? But the multiple siblings matter. This is to be thought through by the father way before that day of reckoning comes. The ego aspect should be taken out of the equation, and then his children should be trained in how to look at it objectively and not from a pure ego perspective. Then
yeah,
all of this can be, a lot of ill will can be avoided by mutual
exactly.
discussion, agreement, and making it non-personal. It's the capabilities, it's the abilities that will determine who does what. Yeah, this is not
Yeah,
just true of family businesses. This is even true of kingdoms.
that's
Mythically,
right.
we've seen it over the centuries, where the king designates a certain responsibility for one son and a different responsibility to another son. And I'm sorry, Neetu, all the examples that I know are of men.
Yeah.
Women hadn't entered the scene as yet. Yeah, but yeah, take the point. It has to be gender neutral.
Thank you so much, Ramesh ji. And I would like to ask one thing. If you can give one message to family businesses. So I'll start with Ramesh ji because you finished, so I'm starting with you. What is the one message for 2026 you would like to give for family?
One message, 30 seconds. Govern the business and
Here,
its balance sheet.
yes.
Govern the business and its balance sheet as if it belongs to your grandchildren, not to you. Okay. And if
Wow.
the succession is clear, build the business and protect it. If it is not, exit with dignity, and exit at a time when the business is at its peak, not while it is on the down, on the decline. It's the famous saying, quit singing when your voice is still good, applies here. I've seen,
Wow.
I handle exits of many entrepreneurs who do not have succession plans in place, and I find that let me push it one more year, until a time comes when the super profits have gone and the business is on the decline, and they're desperately trying to find a buyer, and that too at a price which would have been obtainable in yesteryears, but not anymore. Right. So that's my
Okay.
little message.
Thank you. It is so profound. Thanks a lot. Adam, would you like to give message to on family businesses?
The message that I would give is, I know this sounds a bit trite, but treat the business like it's your own. Now, it is a family business, but not all family members have the same vested interests. So treat it as if you're the sole owner. Now, because some family businesses have 10, 20, 30 shareholders. But treat it as if it's all your money, and all your money's at risk.
Yeah.
So I think if you look at
Wow.
through that lens, it really sharpens your decision making.
That's wonderful. Wow, that makes sense. Like if it's my, I have to, with all my integrity, I have to take care of that. Thank you so much, Adam. Thanks a lot. Dr.
But
Reed, if you could give one message to our audience for family businesses. You're on mute. Let me unmute you.
Okay.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Just to make it very very short, in my opinion, to have a strongest family business, you have to treat the succession as a strategic investment, not only retirement and on emotional. Just make it, it's a strategic, it's an investment, and there is no emotion here that I want to have this son preferable or X, Y, Z. Make it, not to make it retirement, just make it investment. Then you will have a very strong succession into your business.
Wow. Wonderful. I love all these. Like we had such an interesting conversation, and the end is beautiful. Like Dr. Ramesh ji mentioned that the make sure that the business and the balance sheet belongs to grandchildren. Adam mentioned that treat your business like your own, and the succession is a strategic investment. I think this is the essence of the entire conversation. Thank you so much for your time today and sharing like your more than 2 decades of experience sharing in just such a little time. Thanks a lot for that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you
thanks
all and
everyone.
stay safe.
Thank you. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
And to our audience, thank you so much for joining us. In case if you miss, you can always see it live because the recording will be there for some more time on LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube. And if you have any comments, you can write. And our experts will see those comments and reply for that one. And stay tuned because we are going to have another boardroom broadcast next month for something very special, which is related to business. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thank you.